We have done the battle. And we again rededicate ourselves not only in the struggle to emancipate other territories in Africa. Our independence is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever that you may find yourself this very hour. Welcome to Mzazi Africa, where we talk about issues concerning the continent of Africa, and we dig deep into the mud to see whatever that is up there to find possible solution to our concerns and our issue that we are talking about. Today we are here to talk about one of the things that is bordering the whole continent: independence of Africa. Are we truly independent? Are we truly free? Are we really free? Are we really independent? Is there any lingering effect of colonization on us? Is there anything that is holding us back from fully optimizing our potentials? Is there something wrong with the people of the continent? Are we the only continent that was colonized? Or are the countries in Africa were the only country colonized in the world? Why are we not moving forward? And we are still holding on to the past of colonization. So here, we want to talk today about some of those things that we think is it has a negative lingering effect on us, that's the colonization. And what are the things that we as continent have not taken our destiny into our own hands? Because there were other countries, there are other continents who were also colonized. But after colonization, they have moved on. They have moved on. So today I'm here with my brother, Concern Africa, who will be my guest for today, not a co-host. He'll be my guest because I'll be giving him most of the questions, and he tried to give me possible solution to convince me that these are the things that he thinks that to convince me to believe what are those issues. So, Concern, today my main thing is Africa independence truly a freedom from the colonized, from our colonial masters? Is there something that holding us back or hold tidiness to them, right? That it's not like we are truly free or we are truly independent country. Is there something like that? What is true independent means? What does it mean?
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I also want to say thank you to our viewers, that are following us and that listening to most of these very important topics that we discuss. And we also thank them for some of their comments that they leave for us. Yes, that's a very good question. Is Africa truly free? Does Africa really have independence? That's a wonderful question, and we will try to dissect into it today and really find out. And to be honest, it's very easy for us to see from any African, whether educated or not educated, are we truly free? And from my point of view, from where I'm sitting, I'm absolutely sure that we're not truly free. And it was only yesterday that Ghana celebrated its 64th independence, and one of the first that had independence within the sub-Sahara of Africa. And the truth is, the independence is absolutely shambolic as far as I'm concerned, and I'm absolutely sure that you also being part from that country as I am, is looking at the things that are going on within the country for the past
64 years.
Yes, 64 years, which is 6 decades and 6 decades and a half. Nothing has really improved. Now, if you look at the independence of Africa, the truth of the matter is independence is defined as a country exercising self-rule of government over its territory. That is what independence means. Now, the opposite side of independence is liberty. Liberty is having absolute liberty without external control. And the word liberty and independence have two different contrasts. So I always believe from giving this to contrast definition. I always think that Africans should have seek for liberty, not independence, because our independence was only based on exercise self-government over our territory. So it does mean that our independence was only purely on political independence, but economic freedom and the rest of it, I think there's a question mark hanging in there.
Are you linking this to the famous saying by our previous Pan-Africanist, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who said, independence of Africa is meaningless unless it's linked to the total liberation of the African continent? He was talking about independence and he also linked it to liberty, right? And why did he bring in that word, liberty? And he was also talking about independence. Why did he lump the two together? Meanwhile, he was talking about two different things.
Yes, Kwame Nkrumah is a great thinker. And he realized that the reason why he actually signed the independence document, he knew. I know that most of us are not privy to see, to have access to the documents of independence. And I'm sure that if many African citizens to read into some of these documents, independence that we have, they will definitely go back to the European countries and look, we want to rewrite the independence that you gave to us, but it's not worth the piece of paper that's written on. And Kwame Nkrumah knew very well that the political independence that was gained from Great Britain is worthless, not until we gain that economic independence. But he was of the view, based on the statement he made, that if we are able to have that self-rule politically, it might link to other aspects of development, such as economic development. And unfortunately, he did not live to obviously experience the true economic freedom that we need.
Good, thank you. And I think about the independence of Africa, we have two main branch of colonial masters on the African continent, right? The Francophone and the Anglophone countries. Is there any difference between these two rulers, right? Two colonial masters, those who were colonized by the France and those who were colonized by the British. What kind of affiliation or kind of lingering effect of colonization have on these two previously colonized states? Like if you take it, those who were colonized by the France and those who were colonized by the British. Is there anything that differentiates them in terms of proclamation of independence or the independence document that actually states that you are free, but what?
I like what you put and the way you raise your eyes.
Exactly.
I'm absolutely sure that you already know the answers. That when the British ruled, most of the colonies were indirect rule, and the Anglophones was what they call assimilation, whereby the French, let's say Togolese or Beninois or Ivorian living in these colonies feel like they're living in France. So they believe that they were more French, but they were not Africans, if you know what I mean. But right. within the colony of the Anglophones were more or less like indirect rule. But to put it mildly, no matter what the definition might seems to be, colonization in itself is very horrible. I mean, does not favor anyone. That when you look at the time of colonization and post-colonization, none of them has even given Africa a total liberation. It has totally wrecked the continent, and the continent is still wrecked today. And you will know very sure, I mean, prior to this broadcast, remember we were talking about France, and we're also talking about the currency for West Africa, where ECOWAS was to come up with those single currencies. And you realize that it is very difficult for them to navigate through the Francophone side of that part of the world. Because if you look into that part of the world, there's only few countries there that were Anglophone. There are more Anglophones in West Africa than Anglophones.
Yeah, more Francophones.
Yes, if you cast your mind back.
Anglophones, right?
Yeah. Now, whenever any Anglophone, Francophone country wants to get into anything, they first of all, even till now, has to speak to France, and France has to give them the mandate that yes, you can go for it. So when France pull the plug, then it means nothing happens. So that's the reason. If you remember, successive governments from Ghana, I remember very well. I think somewhere coming up to the late 90s, somewhere 97, when the Bank of Ghana and the rest they were obviously thinking about a common check and a common currency within ECO. I mean, it failed dramatically because of Francophone and the rest of it. And the same thing is going on today. They're also trying to think they can have a common currency within that part of ECOWAS, within West Africa. And it's not moving so smoothly at the moment because France always have interference. France always have a say in the Francophone countries, and it's still there till now. Nothing is really changing because most of their reserves are mostly defined and obviously is tied to the Central Bank of France. So I mean, these are all part of the pact that was signed between the independence proclamation that you mentioned. So if you look at this thing very carefully and you look into the documents of their independence, it's quite obvious that our Francophone brothers must go back to France and rewrite the independence documents that they're written on, because it doesn't work the paper they're written on. And I'm also sure that it's the same thing that applies to those of us from the Anglophone part of the colonists.
So I think one thing that is very sure at this point is that average person have not seen the documents that we signed before each of these countries became independent. We, as Mzansi Africa, want to say that these documents should be available for every elementary school student to know and to see that these are the things that were signed by our forefathers who fought for independence. And if there is anything that we think we might renegotiate, right, it's right, it's just appropriate for average individual, average citizen to know this document, make it available on the internet, publish it for our elementary schoolers, let them know, let them read, let them understand it. And if there is anything, then we as citizens of the continent will be able to maybe look for a better way that we can renegotiate some of this agreement that we made, because there are a lot of clauses that were in there. There are a lot of things that were signed that because our forefathers were actually looking for self-governance. It doesn't matter what price that they were going to pay, and they signed for it. And I think this has some lingering effect on us. We also look at even our language, right? We talk about language. We say that if you are truly free, why is African countries still adopting their colonial masters' language as their official language? What point does it make? What point? And it is something that you and I were talking about, that it is also affecting the way we communicate, the way we think, the way we invent, right? If you look about some of these countries who were also colonized, but after the colonization, they retreat, they move back to their own language, they move back to their own way, their worship, the mode of worship. They don't even worship whatever thing that the white people brought to them. They went back to their own system of worshiping. It doesn't mean that they are worshiping, they're all worshiping God, right? But those people have been able to develop. If you think about Africa, Africa is still having a negative, big time effect after colonization. We have not been able to develop. We have not been able to do things right, because we think about Singapore, we think about South Korea, we think about Malaysia, we think about India, and even almighty China right now, that nobody can run away from China. They were all colonized by British or by the France or one or the other. They were colonized. But what has happened to our continent? Can you throw more light? Can you educate me? Because it seems it's still baffling me that after 64 years that Ghana received their independence, I don't know whether Ghana is a baby right now, whether Ghana is an adult, whether Ghana is a teenager or adolescent, because Ghana is still having her plate moving from people's house, asking for food. So I want to know what is going on with within the African continent, that after independence, why our sister countries like the that have independence, like Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, are developing. They are almost like light ages ahead of Africa. And we are still the same place. Even nothing is happening. What is going on?
Absolutely nothing is happening. I mean, when you adopt a system that was obviously brought over to you by your oppressors, there's always going to be a stagnant way of development. And having said that as well, we're also going to dive into the pure waste of our own very people through corruption that has been we've been experiencing for the past 6 decades. I mean, you also bear into mind that most of these African countries within the Western coast and the rest had their independence latest by 1970. It was only the southern part of Africa that had independence very late. Now, the reason for that is because they were having settlers. So they have to deal with the issue of the settlers and the rest of it. And that's the reason why their independence was delayed. That is Southern Africa. But take Southern Africa out of the equation, every other person within the African continent had their independence latest by 1970. Now, even though if we're going to go by 1970, it's still 50 years. And 50 years would be enough for any economic impacts to take place within the continent, not what we're experiencing today. They haven't said that. Now, when you look into the tree system that the colonists brought to us, that is damaging us, is the economic system, which is not very helpful to us. Their political system, which is not very helpful to us. The educational system also. And like you also said, the religious system they also brought. Now, you see, we have what we call, if you go into psychology, we have what we call the onset delay. The onset delay is something that preconceived from the things that happened to you in the past. And this can go on into a generation sort of things. So I think all of these are things that are playing against us, that African has to look into this thing very carefully. And obviously, very more importantly than what you mentioned, we spoke about earlier a few minutes ago, is the Declaration of Independence document must be made available to every African to look, because I'm absolutely sure there are clauses that are holding us back, because these people came in, like prior to our conversation, I think about half an hour ago, you're talking about the 1884, the Berlin Conference that was hosted by von Bismarck in Berlin under the auspices of Portugal, because Portugal put that request. Remember that they came in through force. Now, when someone came to you through force and is leaving on a piece of document, you must remember that he is going to sign that document that favors him. Remember, he came with the bullet of the gun, and you don't just expect the person to walk out. They say, okay, I'm going now, and here you go, take your freedom. No one does that. Certain freedom has to be fought for. Now, even if they are not fought for, there should be some form of economic benefits that you are going to get in hindsight. So really, truly, these colonists are still colonizing us by proxy. When you look at some of our trade, I remember you were talking about one of these VAGO, whatever that was signed, because Ghana former president was having a good relationship with George Bush. So it is not a dialogue. It is something we have to take by force. I mean, we're implementing that forceful will of actually taking our true independence back, the continent is ever going to remain very impoverished. And that's the situation we're experiencing today.
So at this particular moment, how can we optimize our independence? How can we optimize what we have right now? Because it seems like the 4 countries that I've mentioned, like Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, these are the countries that we almost like the same year we all had an independence together, right? And when we talk about South Korea right now, you can find South Korea products like Samsung, you can find Kia or Hyundai car, every part on this continent. You can find Japan stuff everywhere. As for China, we are made up of China right now as we are talking, right? So that is very funny. Everything that we are using right now is made out, partially is made out of China, is made from China. So how can we optimize what we have right now without right, relying so much on the negative effect of colonization? Because bear in mind, those who were so colonized, right? The South Korea, the Japanese, Malaysia and Singapore and China and India, they were all colonized, one or the other. But they have been able to move ahead. What is still holding us back as a continent? What is still holding us back from developing, from having a creative mind to think about something that would develop the continent? Because if you continue on this path, I'm afraid very soon we'll just go and beg them that, hey, come and colonize us again, because we don't know how to do it.
That is very true.
Question.
Yes, I'm absolutely. I share the same concern that you're also echoing at the moment, and I'm absolutely sure that almost 1 billion of African continents, being the continent and the diaspora, obviously still share the same concern that you are obviously echoing. It is true. I mean, if this does not worry or give you sleeplessness at night, then I don't know what else. Because when you go through most of these continents in Africa, you still see children begging on the streets. We still see child labors on the high side, unemployment, and the rest of it. And it's true. Singapore and Ghana, for instance, have independence very close. I think Ghana just turned 64 not long ago, and I'm absolutely sure that within the next now to the next 100 days, Singapore is also going to be 64 as well, and they were all colonized by Great Britain. And Singapore is a very enviable country. That
right.
You live in the United States, I live in Great Britain. I'm absolutely sure that if we can easily move down there and not feel any negative economic effects or whatsoever, because it's very advanced. I mean, so to speak. And most of these Asiatic countries are doing very well. But the truth is, when you look at South Korea and the rest, when the colonists left, they focus on inward development. They decided to look within themselves, because you see, what you can get outside, you can get from inside. You first of all have to free yourself. You first of all have to have that internal reparation, that internal independence, for you to translate that outside, because what comes from within exceed from what comes from external, if you know what I mean. So the inward development takes place from that mental capacity. They look into their languages, which is very, even if you go and buy Samsung or one of these Asiatic made phones, you will see that almost everything that is written in the local language, just tiny little part is written in English. That is for, if they're trying to send abroad and read it, they just put it in tiny. So some of them don't even put that. You have to go to Google and probably do some little translation right there for yourself. Is what I'm saying to you. So those things are very important. The language aspect is what is killing us as well. That's another thing we have to look into. And another thing again is the educational system. Our education is taught in a colonized master. So really, truly, we are not free. We hold on to their language. We hold on to their economic principle. We hold on to their political system as well. And again, we hold on to their religious system. I mean, all these countries that you just mentioned about a few minutes ago, like India, they have their own local, and their local languages. So not until we do a repackage and give them back their religion and their system, we are going to be forever be colonized. So these are some of the things that we have to do. We have to reform these things and find a way of, getting rid of these things and staying focused to our own system, something that is tailored to the need of the African continent.
Something that is tailored to the need of African states. We are ending our broadcast here today, but I know this is a very deep that we have to, we wish we could have an hour, 2 hours talking about this, and because there is a fundamental issue with the people of Africa, our leadership, the way we think, the way we do things. We copy bluntly, right? We have copied our colonial masters, the way they do things, the way they cheat, and we are even using the same system to cheat our own people. If you go to the parliament, the parliamentarian house within all the member states, there are systems that are in place, that political opposition, they share money, that one, nobody hears about that, right? They are all okay. Everybody is nice. When it comes to that sharing, everybody is okay. There's no debate. There's no argument. And these are the things that the colonial masters put that thing in place so that they can exploit us. Why are we still doing the same thing to our own people? So how are we doing that? So today we are ending our broadcast here. Happy birthday to Africa, to Ghana, for that matter, the continent of Africa, because Ghana became the first country to get independence. So happy birthday to the continent of Africa. We hope that we will move this continent to become a better place, to become a force to reckon with, to become like a place that will not allow our continent to be like a place that anybody want to come and cook anything and take it away, right? Our kitchen, right? They take our raw materials, they take it and go. They take gold, they take it and go. They go and refine it. They take bauxite, they take manganese. Whatever thing that we have it on the continent, we should find a way to safeguard this thing, develop it within. Let the cocoa manufacturing, cocoa producers, there should be a way to keep our cocoa and process it, and then send it, the processed material, to other countries. Like you see that here, here in Pennsylvania, I said we were going to add this broadcast, but we are here in Pennsylvania. We have something that we call Hashley Park. Hashley, what they do, they produce chocolate, and the amount of money that they generate. But I think I will end here. I think I'm going somewhere else. I'm deviating from what we are talking about. But there's something that we all have to think about. There is something wrong, fundamentally wrong with our leadership. Fundamentally wrong with the way we think. Fundamentally wrong with the way we accept foreign culture and throw our own culture away. Finish this for us, concern, and then just I'm done.
I mean, to be quite honest, you've summarized what every young African today will be thinking, and every African will obviously, make the statement very point the way you actually end the show, and you've taken a lot of stuff out of my mind, a lot of stuff that I have in my head to speak. You've summarized it so much that I won't have a lot more to say. But in truth is, I think today's Africa should obviously look into the documents that we signed with these people over 6 decades ago, and we should re-look into it. And I'm absolutely sure we'll find something there that we and the European counterpart can obviously rewrite the constitution of the independence document that we have with these people. I think that's very paramount. It's something that we have to look into from. That will be the first line of protocol for us to change things.
Right. Yeah. I hope they are listening. Hey, if today is your first time listening to this audio video, please like and subscribe and share with your friend. Let's all have a dialogue. If you think there's something that we need to bring to this platform that we can all have a view or can't have a discussion, send us a link, send us your comment, and put your number in the comment, and we will call you, have a discussion. Thank you.
If we find the methods used by others are suitable to our social environment, we shall adopt or adapt them. If we find them unsuitable, we shall reject them.